Welcome. r/malicious compliance. I need a doctor's note to stop teaching. Okay, let's play. Background. Back in January, I took a teaching position at a Title I school. Title I generally means families of low income and schools have very few resources. I was fine with that. I took over the Algebra I class in the middle of the year, because the other teacher had had enough. That should have been a sign, but I took the job anyway. As spring break began to stretch on, I had accepted that we wouldn't be going back to school for the year. I got a call from the principal of the elementary school. The district where I worked had 1 M, 2 middle, and 1 HS. Shortly after spring break, aka before the changes to teaching were made, offering me what was pretty much a dream position for the 2020 to 2021 school. Yeah, I took the position and signed a contract. As the debates, lies, and harassment about the upcoming fall semester carried on over the summer, my mental health plummeted. I mean almost rock bottom. That led to even more physical health concerns and a stronger course of medication for mental health. I was terrified and often went into a panic at the drop of a hat. Awful things were being said to us and thrown at us. Towards the end I cried just opening and reading emails from the school. So I decided that this job, where I had zero resources and was under the poverty line even fully employed, wasn't worth my mental and physical health. We were going to have to triple our responsibilities with half the supplies we needed. I quit and turned in a very professional resignation letter. Here's where it gets interesting. My principal and superintendent tried to counter my resignation because I was under contract, even though they'd violated it already, but that's another story, and it took several well-written emails to be released without penalty. I'm one of the few teachers actually licensed in my area, so they didn't want to lose me, even if that meant making me angry. I resigned for health reasons kept vague in my letter, never give them more info than they need, and the superintendent said I needed a doctor's note. He informed me of this 2.5 hours before the board meeting. The school board has to release you from your contract if the superintendent counters the action is scheduled. Okay. Let's play. I scrambled and my primary care doctor sent a note over 3 minutes after the deadline to get it submitted to the board. The superintendent pulled the "we haven't told teachers yet, but we are starting the year online, so this note doesn't count because you have to prove you can't work from home." Okay. I called up my psychiatrist. I've been seeing him for 6 years for depression and anxiety, and some other stuff that's not relevant. There's a particular nurse there who has a thing for people who mess with disabled people. Now I function very well, and work very hard, so my disabilities don't seem obvious, but they are still very much there. She drew up this absolutely scathing letter about how the district has caused intense emotional stress and created a dysfunctional work environment. She referenced an ADA bylaw too, I think. She sent it down to my psychiatrist's office to get it signed. He reviews everything, and I said okay, hang on, let me try one more thing. I had not previously responded to the superintendent's email about a second note, but I decided I needed to. I sent back a short email that said that I was disappointed that I would need to share such private medical information after already supplying an original note, but that my psychiatrist would be sending one over because I wanted to do my best to comply with your requests. Apparently psychiatrist and disability are the magic words for getting out of a contract, because of how many lawsuits those words open up. I got a call later that day from my principal. The superintendent didn't even have the guts to call me himself, saying that I've been released from my contract. I called my nurse back and let her know I didn't need that note because they'd decided one was enough, but it's still in my file in case the district tries to reverse their decision. Please do not tell me I'm a horrible person for giving up on the kids, or that I'm being selfish. I've heard it all, and I don't need it again. TL. Doctor, school board required a doctor's note to release me, a disabled teacher, from my contract. I provided one. It was refused, so I asked a different doctor for another one, this time discussing mental health. Didn't have to use the letter, because my superintendent figured out fast that if I was calling my psychiatrist his problems could get a lot worse. Edit. Wow. So this blew up. RIP inbox. I want to clarify something. A lot of factors played into my decision, including ones about that thing the world is currently dealing with that shall not be named. The malicious compliance here is me having to go to ridiculous lengths to be released from my contract. I had already quit. I completely fulfilled the job duties to the best of my ability for the 2019 to 2020 school year. The reason I was backing out of the brand new contract for the 2020 to 2021 school year is because between March and July, schools changed forever, and the stress of it broke me down so much I could barely function. I signed the contract in March, when I was optimistic and excited about teaching a new subject to a different age group. I'm still on all the district's emails and the conditions for teachers have become even worse than they were when I quit. Anyone who thinks I played the mental health card, mental health was always an issue. I have been mentally ill the entire time I have been teaching. However, I had not previously been in a place mentally where opening an email from the school made me want to cry. It's a card, but it's one I earned fair and square. I chose to go that route instead of hiring a lawyer or trying to find loopholes in the contract they already broke. I preferred to leave quietly. They required a doctor's note. I gave them a legitimate doctor's note with legitimate issues expressed regarding my ability to keep teaching. Thank you to all of you who have said such lovely things. It's really nice to hear supportive words after 3.5 months of being told to suck it up and work harder. I'm glad I made the decision I did. For those of you asking about my plan/offering suggestions, thank you. I'm going to ghostwrite writing blog style articles under a pseudonym and tutor. I have worked independently before in the past, so I know I can do it, but it's a little scary having to start up again. I got my first writing paycheck last week though, so that was exciting. A friend of mine at a government assistance office wants to have lunch next week and talk about an arrangement where I would tutor the children of their clients and the office would pay me instead of the parents being fully financially responsible. Everything is virtual, and I can choose how much work I want to do/am capable of successfully completing. So things are looking up. Once upon a time, the dominant culture of the time, a relatively small, but disproportionately influential plurality with its cultural core in the Northeast, and, to a lesser extent, the West Coast, had a situation in which women were expected to become educated, but were not expected to work. Or more accurately, were expected to not work outside certain limited professions that were considered acceptable because they were women's work. Among these professions was teaching. Before electronic computers, computing was also among the acceptable forms of labor for educated women. As a result, the labor market for teachers was filled with educated capable women with few prospects for employment outside the teaching profession. Additionally, it was expected they would be married to a similarly educated man, thus it was not expected they would need to be paid a whole lot. Thus, schools could employ extremely capable individuals for very little money. Eventually, this restriction on female employment was lifted. If schools want to draw the same level of talent, they now have to pay a rate that is competitive with the job market. Unfortunately, sheer institutional inertia has prevented the educational system from adapting to the situation. There are too many moving parts. If the legislature tries to solve the problem by adding more money to the system, the administration inevitably sucks it up and uses it to carve out their own little tin pot empires. A teachers union can press for better compensation, but are limited to what the district can get out of the government, and has its own internal politics to deal with. Besides, an administrator might try and act reform, but is up against a system that, intentionally or not, values power plays over education. The individual teacher is powerless to do anything about the situation. My wife has had a very similar experience. In fact, almost identical. Bored making stupid decisions in video conference because they are too afraid to meet in person. They all decided that the kids should not be required to wear masks, and that the classes will be full 5 days a week for full schedule. The desks will be 18 inches apart, because that's 3 feet nose to nose, so that should be sufficient. They are turning off the HVAC, because that will cross-contaminate classrooms. Also, the kids will be eating in the classroom. So she's expected to be in the classroom for 7+ hours with 30 kids, no PPE, and no social distancing, with no ventilation. The union is pretty ineffective where we are, but they did manage to get the district to say that if the teacher gets a doctor's note saying that they or someone in their immediate family is at extreme risk, then they can require the kids to wear a mask unless they have a medical reason to not wear a mask. After that decision, the parents have been very vocal on social media and graffiti on school signs that their tax money should be refunded and the teachers fired. My wife has received angry emails from the parents about how stupid the mask requirement is, and that they hope that she does not enforce it. Her doctor did write her a note that demands mask wearing, but she hasn't told any parents this yet. We are frantically searching for other work for her, and then she'll break her contract, which will probably get her license to teach revoked permanently. She's been teaching for almost 25 years, and loves her job. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit like. If you would like to see more, feel free to subscribe.